Okay, so today we have the ESP LTD SN-1000FR. Doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue, but it's a good guitar, so let's check it out. So, as you can see, this is an HSS Super Strat. In terms of construction, you've got an alder body. This one is rather heavy. I would say this guitar is probably close to 9 pounds, so it's a little heavier than I would like, and that's probably one of my biggest gripes about the guitar. The neck is a roasted maple. You can see it's relatively slim C shape, not much different than you would get from some of the similar Schecters. So not super thin, but definitely not a chunky neck. You've got regular non-locking tuners here, but you do have a locking nut because it's a Floyd Rose branded tremolo, fully floating. In terms of the fretboard, you've got an Anemone fretboard, compound radius. I think it goes from 12 to 16. The frets are jumbo stainless steel. The fretwork overall is pretty good. There's a little bit of fret sprout going on, but I'm going to give it a pass because it's February outside Philadelphia where I live, and frankly, all my guitars are having fret sprout this year. It's been a really cold, dry winter. You know, my American-made Fender, my PRSs, they're all having fret sprout. Actually, I just took one of my guitars to my luthier to have him do some work on it, and he said the same thing. All his guitars, all his clients' guitars are having fret sprout this winter, so I'm not going to hold a little bit, and this is just a little bit, against this guitar. The other interesting thing is from the 17th fret to the 24th fret, they're scalloped. So this is my first time spending any amount of time with a guitar with scalloped frets. So it's not something I'm used to, but I will say definitely you can feel the difference when you're playing up here. There's less kind of friction as you're playing, so it makes it maybe a little easier to do some vibrato or to get around. Overall, though, the quality of the construction is really good. You know, the neck pocket is, you know, very well fit. You've got a nice kind of slanted, angled neck pocket. So the handshake, as Phil McKnight likes to call it, is very comfortable, easy to get access to the upper frets. In terms of the pickups, you've got Fishman Fluence pickups. They are active, so there's a little battery compartment here. And you've got just volume tone, 5-way switch. So that works exactly the way you expected for an HSS guitar. So neck and middle, middle and bridge, and then bridge. When you go to the bridge, that's when it gets interesting because this pickup has 3 different modes. It starts in mode 2. That's kind of the default setting. This is kind of a modern humbucker tone. If you pull out the tone control, you put it into mode 1, which is more of a vintage PAF kind of humbucker. And if you pull up on the volume, you put it into mode 3, which is more of a modern single coil. And if you're in mode 3 on the volume, whatever you have the tone set to between modes 1 and 2 doesn't matter because you're just in mode 3. And the other thing I'll say is when you're in the second position, it seems to just stay in the same mode. I'm not sure what it's doing. It seems like maybe it's just keeping it in mode 2. It doesn't seem like it's splitting the pickup. It gets very loud in the second position. We'll hear that in a second. In terms of the tremolo, I will say this arm is an aftermarket arm that the friend that I borrowed this guitar from bought separate from the guitar, but it just kind of screws in place. You can tighten it up so it stays wherever you put it, or you can keep it kind of loose and dangling if you want. The other thing I'll say is any scratches you see on the pickguard, that's because the plastic is actually still on the guitar. So I've had this to play around with for a few weeks now, but the friend I borrowed it from hasn't taken the plastic off the cover yet, so I'm going to leave it on too. Overall, like I said, a very well put together guitar, but let's plug it in and hear how it sounds. Okay, for this demo, I'm using my Neural DSP Quad Cortex. I've got a preset set up with a couple amp models. One is a Mesa Boogie Lone Star for kind of a Fendery, kind of clean, and maybe a little bit of low gain tones. And then I've got a Friedman 100 model here that I'm using for some higher gain stuff. So higher gain rhythm, maybe a lead tone. I've got a little bit of latent reverb on the end, but I've dialed it back quite a bit just so we can hear mostly what the guitar sounds like. So right now I'm on the neck pickup. Everything's on 10, and I'm on a clean tone. Let's hear how that sounds. If I go to the 4 position, so you get a pretty good quack out of it. But the pickups definitely have maybe a little more output than a kind of a vintage Strat. Here's the middle. And here's position 2. If we go to the bridge, again, I'm in mode 2, so this is the highest output humbucker tone. You can hear it's pushing the Lone Star into amount of gain. If I go into mode 1, which is more of a vintage PAF kind of thing, mode 2, mode 1. So you can hear less output, a little more treble in mode 1. Mode 2 is a little more output and more mids and low. Let's put it in mode 3, which is the single coil. So you can hear there's quite a bit of a difference for that. It is kind of a modern single coil. But like I said, position 2 doesn't really matter what setting I have. It's only when you're in position 1 that those settings matter. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of gain to the Lone Star. We'll go back to the neck, kind of more of a bluesier. If I go to position 4, position 2, and here that's pushing it quite a bit more. And then on the bridge in mode 2, here's mode 1, mode 3. You can still hear a difference between mode 1 and mode 2 with kind of this light gain, but it's becoming a little less noticeable. And as we go to the Friedman, and this is a pretty low amount of gain on the Friedman. I think I'm only on 2 or 3. If I go to mode 1, you can hear a difference, but it's becoming less and less noticeable the more gain you add. We add in kind of more. If we go to a rude tone, very similar, maybe a little bit of an EQ difference on the top end. The pick attack maybe has a little bit of a different character to it. But overall, not that much of a difference. Go to the neck. The other thing I'll say is, the bridge with the locking nut stays in tune really well. So overall, I think it's a really well-made guitar. Again, my major complaint is it's pretty heavy, significantly so. Other than that, I think it's a very well-made guitar. I think it matches up well against, some of the Schechters and things like that that are kind of in this price range. So this is definitely kind of what I would consider a premium import guitar. You've got, the ebony fretboard, stainless steel frets, you've got the scalloping, you've got the Fishman pickups, you've got the Floyd Rose branded bridge. I think in general, there's a lot of features on this guitar. It's definitely a little more expensive than maybe some other import guitars, but I think it's pretty well lined up with some of the more top-end Schechters, like the Aaron Marshall and things like that. So I think it lines up pretty well overall. So I think if you're looking for this kind of super strat, you're considering things like a Schechter or maybe a Charvel, I would definitely give this kind of guitar a look, see what kind of deal maybe you can get on it. I think there's a lot of features for the money. I think it's really well made. These are made in Korea. So, it's a pretty quality import guitar. I think if you can get it at a discount, maybe it can be a good deal. I don't know that LTD would be the first one that I would go for in this price range. But anyway, I hope you found this helpful. And as always, thanks for watching.